Hello guys, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach with our live feed today, and just want to say welcome to all the new members here. And we usually on a Wednesday just get together and I give you guys some tips and advice as we all just sort of find this journey together to be free, have food freedom, and just want to remind you of what we're doing here. We're just getting free from any sort of food crazies. So if you're eating compulsively, if you're eating more than you want, if just your relationship with food is not a thing that is a positive thing in your life, then you are in the right place. I was bulimic and a binge eater for years. I'm now completely free and have helped hundreds of women to just get free and have peace around food. So fun to have you here. And again, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and welcome. And feel free to ask questions or comment as we go along. Our topic today is just, I think, really interesting and fun and something that comes up so much. So feel free to just, enjoy like all this, information and just let it process, and, don't come at it with a place of like, oh, this is right or this is wrong, or, that's true or that's not true. Just try it on and see how it feels to you, see if it serves you, and then just go from there. Like, that's it, nothing more. So cool story. I had somebody who is, working on their eating and getting free, using other tools. Like there's just lots of information out in the world. And one thing, and I appreciate everyone in this space. Like I appreciate all the people out there and the voices that are just trying to help people to have a better relationship with food. I think that is really, really important. And one exercise that she was going through, so this is not through anything that I do, but just another thing. One exercise was like, hey, here are a whole bunch of questions about, how somebody eats, and find a normal eater in your life and then just interview them and really see for them what their answers are. So I thought this was such an interesting exercise, and I feel honored that she reached out to me, and she's just like, hey, so you just seem to be a totally normal eater, and I would really like to know what this is like for you. And as I was going through these questions, I was like, wow, like this is just so incredibly telling. And I wanted to give you guys some insight. And first of all, like, how do I eat? This is something that I get asked a lot because I spent so many years just being crazy around food, just like insane, crippling, just a horrible, horrible relationship with food that was wrecking my life. And now I feel completely free and at peace and a normal eater. And here's the main thing that I want you guys to take away from our live feed today. I didn't have to force anything. I didn't have to learn to eat. Well, that's you, Lydia, and that's just your experience. True? And for the hundreds of women that I have coached and allowed them and shown them how to be completely free from food crazies, this is a theme, this is a trend, this is a really obvious thing that comes up. Because here's how we have the cart before the horse when it comes to eating. Is we say, okay, I've got to learn how to be a normal eater. And then once I learn how to be a normal eater, then, my food crazies will be gone and I'll be able to figure it all out. Okay, see if that works. I did that for years. And I tried to look at other examples. But what it came down to was like, how on earth is that person just forgetting that there's food on their plate? Just them forgetting there was food on their plate was driving me crazy. No matter how much I observed how somebody else had a better relationship with food, that never changed my relationship with food. Here is what I have seen from all the data is most useful. Fix the disordered eating. Fix it. This is what we're here for. This is exactly what I coach women how to do. Get the food crazies out of your life. And once you have that out of the way, then you naturally, without effort, become a normal eater. Because you know what? You already are a normal eater. You're also a normal breather. Your body knows how to breathe air into your lungs. You're also a normal sleeper. Your body knows how to sleep. Eating is just a regular process of life. And what happens when we get the disordered eating out of the way is that normal eating shows up as soon as we get out of our own way with this cycle that we're in with food. So I want you guys to know that from all the data that I've gathered, that is the very most effective order of things. So I'm going to go through these questions and give you guys a little bit of a before and after so you understand that. But I want it to all be in the context of everything that I'm going to be describing to you here happened on its own. Yes, I got rid of my disordered eating with principles that work, that are sustainable, that are lasting, that have allowed me to be completely free. So this wasn't based on willpower, and it wasn't based on, trying this and trying that and tracking all my triggers. Like, it was stuff that works. Like, when you do it that way, then the normal eating can show up. But if you're, in the trenches with all like this trying and willpower and misery and tracking and all of that, then maybe you don't expect normal eating to show up. But I'm letting you know, this is with the caveat, is like, if you use the principles that allow you to just leave the crazy eating behind, that the normal eating shows up. So I thought these questions were just so interesting. So let's go over them, and feel free to just comment with any other questions or comments or whatever it is, because we're live. And hello everyone, and thank you for being on. Okay, so the first question is, how do you decide what to eat? Do you go by smell, look, taste, or how you'll feel after eating the item? Okay, so before, I would have a meal plan. That's how I would decide, is I would say, what is the right thing to eat? And I would have a huge list of mental rules, and I didn't care about how I felt. I cared about what I did, eating the right thing at the right time, at exactly the right way, and it was so strenuous. And I wanted to make sure that I got everything of what I allowed myself to have. That was before. When I got my disordered eating out of the way, what my experience now is, I just go by convenience. Like, just if I want it, that's how I decide what to eat. I just eat healthy things most of the time, just because that's how I want to eat, and I don't have any rules for myself. Okay, the next one is, which of these comes first? Sight, smell, or imagined taste of the food? Here's how it is now. I don't roam around my kitchen picking up on smells and sights to inform me about what I should eat. And I don't think about the taste of things. Like, it goes something like this, like, oh, I'm hungry. What do I have time for? What sounds good? And it's not a big deal. What I eat is literally not a big deal. So it's just like boom, boom, boom. So I want you to notice the theme in these questions. The theme in all of these questions is, okay, so what, because food is a really, really big deal, what are all the different areas that I need to monitor and keep track of so that I make sure that I eat just right and just the right thing, because eating is hard. It doesn't need to be that way at all. Normal eaters don't think about all of these questions when they eat. They just don't have disordered eating. And so just who they naturally are as a normal eater can show up. And I want you to know that is possible for anyone. I truly believe that, because I've seen it so many times. Oh, yeah, this is a really great question. Thank you guys for typing your questions. So the question is, how does accountability fit in your mindset protocol? I love that. And this is something that comes up on the group sometimes. And, I've, directed you guys with this because I want to give you feedback and advice that is most useful to you. I have never, ever seen accountability and an eating disorder. This is how it usually goes. Somebody says, oh, I need accountability. If I had accountability, if I had somebody to just like call, or to call me, and then I would stop. And if I know I'm reporting to somebody, I have almost 100% of the time seen accountability make things worse. Because here's what actually happens. Okay, I need accountability, and I want to be accountable, and I have to have something outside myself to stop me from doing this because I'm insane and I'm crazy and I can't do this on my own, right? And then in the moment, nothing sounds better than binging. And so what happens is, when we, in that moment, are convinced that we want to do it, nothing else sounds better. And why on earth would we reach out and be accountable to anyone? Because we've decided to do it and we really feel like it's us. Also, accountability is not sustainable. That may help for a minute. You may get some relief for a minute with a whole lot of willpower, but it's not going to be lasting. What's lasting is being able to practice a process so that you know, when you have a cascade of thoughts that leads to the binge eating, how to just get out of that cycle, and then you don't feel like binge eating anymore. So it's not about like, okay, I really want to binge eat, but I have to, jump out and reach out for accountability, because it's probably not going to happen, because in the moment you're going to think that you want to do it. And when you don't reach out, it adds more to the shame and the blame and the guilt. So it's like, oh man, I could have reached out for accountability, but I didn't. What's wrong with me? I'm so messed up. I've got to change this. I've got to fix this. Well, I'm going to start over tomorrow, so I might as well just like eat the rest tonight, because this is what I've decided to do. I'm just going to let go. So really great question there. That's how accountability fits in, as in like it's not always intuitive because accountability is a thing that people think they need, but look at the actual data. Anytime that you've told somebody, hey, stop me from eating, or hey, I'm going to report to you, has it fixed your eating? Has it kept it the same? Or has it made it worse? So yeah, really, really great question there. So I know we jumped a little off track to like answer that, but that's a wonderful question. Okay. The next one is, how do you decide how much to eat? So how it is now is I just put food on a plate and I know about how much I want because of experience of like, oh, I think I want about this much. But if I get full sooner, then I don't eat the rest. And if I'm still hungry, I eat more. Okay, so next question. How do you know when you're finished eating? I'm never finished eating. I will eat for the rest of my life. And I'm just going to take breaks when I'm full or when I do other stuff. Or I don't like it anymore. Like, oh, like this is not as great as I thought it was, so I'll just stop. And even if I'm still hungry, I'll eat something that I like more. Like it's literally just not a big deal. So do you leave food on your plate? Just notice this question, you guys. Do you leave food on your plate? Like it frames it like it's this willpower thing. Like, are you doing this moral thing of like leaving some food on your plate to try to what? Like cut out calories or like if there's food I don't end up eating, then I leave it on my plate. Like it's never intentional. Like it's not like I am deciding that I'm going to eat and I'm going to leave food on my plate because I know it's the right thing to do. Like, no, it's just like if I get full earlier, then of course I leave food on my plate because I don't want to eat the rest of it. Like it's just sort of a side effect of doing what I want to. Realize this is like so opposite than how it used to be. Man, I would do something when I was like just trying to like willpower my way through ending my eating disorder. I would do like an abundance offering, which I would take huge willpower and I would decide that I'm going to leave at least a morsel of something like a piece of bread or a few pieces of lettuce on my plate just to practice, just to force myself to do the really, really hard thing of leaving it on my plate. I was almost never successful and it made my entire meal incredibly stressful. It was awful. But you know what? I ended my disordered eating and then it just became a natural thing to sometimes have food left on my plate and sometimes not. Okay, do you eat slowly or fast? It depends on how much time I have. If I don't have a lot of time, then I'll eat faster. And if I have more time, then I'll just kind of go along and maybe I'll do other things and forget about my food and be like, oh, that's right. I remember that I'm eating. Okay. Oh, all right. Awesome. So another question here. You guys, great questions. Thank you so much. Do you still feel compulsion to eat everything on your plate though, like from muscle memory? That is really, really great. So what I find is that it's not so much muscle memory, is we just reinforce habits. It's not like we have like a habit that is permanently part of us. We just have a habit that we've reinforced, and anytime that we reinforce the habit, it gets stronger, and anytime we don't, it gets weaker. So it's not so much about what you've done in the past, it's how you've reacted to your thoughts leading up to it. So if you have this cascade of thoughts that leads you to feeling like you really have to eat everything else on your plate, then you're going to want to do that. If you know how to interrupt that, then the desire just goes away. There are some things that for a while will still kind of feel like, oh, well, that's the way I've always done it. So it feels a little more comfortable to do it that way. But focusing on the practice of getting rid of the disordered eating changes things very, very quickly in that aspect. So that's really great. That's a great question. I know that's sort of just like we're skimming the surface of the answer and we can go deeper on that for sure. But I'm so glad that you're asking that. But no, I feel no compulsion to finish everything on my plate. Sometimes I do because I want to, or like, oh, this is really good, or I'm going to eat the rest of this, or like, oh man, like I don't want to throw this away and I just have a couple more bites, so I'll just eat it, because it's fine to be a little overly full. Like it's just not a big deal, right? But if I really don't want it, then I won't have it. But it doesn't feel like a compulsion and it doesn't feel like a have to. Okay. Do you put your knife and fork down between mouthfuls? Again, look at this. Like it's like do you do that thing that you should be doing, that you should be trying? You know what? Like if I need my hands for other things, then I put my fork down. And if not, then I usually just keep it in my hand because I'm eating. It's not based on trying to eat the right way. It's literally just very much based on like not a big deal and a convenience thing. Do you engage in conversation during a meal? If there are people to talk to, yes. Do you take a break for any length of time? Like if I get interrupted, like if I'm in the middle of a meal and like a phone call comes in or a text that I need to answer right then, yes, then I'll take a break. But it's not, again, notice the difference between just like, oh yeah, if I get interrupted, then I'll do other things and then come back to it, versus I am trying to take a break. I am setting an intention and using my willpower to take a break. Notice how this is trying to just force yourself to do the right thing, as opposed to working on your thoughts on the way to taking the action, adjusting your thoughts so that you feel in complete power to do what you need to and want to. Okay, do you believe you need to clean your plate? Nope, the dishwasher does that. Ha 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 ha. No, I don't feel a pull either way. Do you share your food? Oh, you guys, this used to be so hard for me. Like sharing food was just like so scary. Like it actually made me angry. Like it brought up feelings of anger, the idea that I would have to share my food, because I felt this like extreme crazy ownership around my food. Like I earned this. This is what I get. And I don't get a lot of food. And this is what I've allowed myself. So it was zero sum. Like if I had to share one bite of my food with somebody else, it was literally taking away from the little bit of scarce food that I got. And now it's just like, of course, like, yeah, I'll share my food. Do you want to, like, I'll offer up, like, do you want to try this? Because this is good. I want to share. Because I know that I can have as much as I want anytime that I want. So sharing is just not a big deal. Do you notice the texture of your food as you eat? I would say so. Like I probably notice texture, but I don't aim to. Like it's not something I'm trying to do. I'm just like, oh, nice texture. Unless I'm like sort of distracted and like not very mindfully eating, and then usually not. How do you know if you want a dessert? I know that I want a dessert when I feel like having a dessert. All right. Do you use this process at home too, or is there another meal selection process for when you are home? Just notice the language that you've got. Meal selection process, as in this is hard. We need to, form our plan to learn how to eat from scratch. You know how to eat. The only reason why it feels hard is because you have disordered habits in the way of it. Okay, so it's about the same, at home. Sometimes I get smaller portions while like traveling if I don't want to carry around leftovers. So it's more, again, like a lot of what I do is like based on convenience. Is there a particular mood you need to be in to eat? Would you eat when you are sad or happy or frustrated? Like notice how much sort of like judgment is in this question, right? It's like, would you eat when you're sad? It's like implicit in that you need to adjust your eating depending on, like there's a danger. Like if you're sad, you might want to think about not eating because, oh no, you're sad. As in like an emotion can make you eat any certain way. So my mood does not impact when or what I eat. And I wouldn't avoid eating because of my mood. Like there's no danger there. I do what I want. So there's no danger to me eating no matter how I feel, because no mood is going to make me eat in a certain way. Okay, do you believe about meal times and eating in general? Oh, what do you believe about meal times and eating in general? And are they happy times or stressful times? So I think food is wonderful and fun and special and boring and necessary and annoying and inconvenient. It's like sleep. You gotta sleep and you gotta eat. And sometimes it's gonna be cool and sometimes it's not gonna be cool. And that's okay. Because again, like it's not a big deal. Okay, really, some more good questions coming up. Do you notice that you want to eat certain foods to make you feel better? This is great. I'm going to answer it a little bit, and then I'm going to point you to a resource here, because this could be like, so there's a comment. I don't want to be a question pig here. No, not at all. Like, please, I love the questions. These are so, so wonderful. And when you guys ask questions that might, like, so this question that was just asked is a great whole other live feed, right? Like that's a great just on my radar. Like we should do a live feed about that because that's a wonderful question. So that's why I'm going to ask all of your questions. I might answer some and some will be like their whole other, live feed. So that's great. So do I want to eat certain foods to feel better? This is, I have an interview with Isabel Fox and Duke. She's returning to the show for, I believe, the third time because she's awesome and I think she has some great ideas. So that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. But we talk about this, and this is something that she talks about a lot, is emotional eating. How we've villainized eating for any other reason than just food is fuel. And You can only eat when you're hungry. Notice all these sorts of rules and restrictions around it. Food is so many things, you guys. Like, food can change your mood, but you don't have to depend on food to change your mood. So for instance, like if I've, as a normal eater, if I've just like had a long, hard day and I'm like, you know what, it would be so nice to just eat some really good chocolate and just like sit down and veg for a minute. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a choice that I have made and is okay, because there's no danger in, well, I have to not eat chocolate because that could turn into a binge. It's like, oh, you know what? It would be so nice to eat some chocolate and relax. And I'll usually get through some of it, but then I'll physically just feel like, ugh, too much chocolate. And then I just won't do it anymore. And I'll wrap up the rest of it and I'll kind of know like, oh, okay, so I feel fine and I'm just going to move on with my day. So there's nothing to be villainized in emotional eating. You can eat for lots of different reasons, but you can get out of the cycle of the compulsive eating part. So this is just some insight into what it's like to be a normal eater. It's not something that's forced. It's something that comes up. It's something that, you know, the women going through my program, all the time it just pops up for them like, oh, wow, like it's so cool. Like I was eating and then I just felt full and my interest in food just went away. And it feels like these fun miracle things. If I would have done this video to my past self, I wouldn't have believed me and I would have thought this was crazy and impossible. But it just happens on its own when you get the disordered eating out of the way. So the truth is that normal eaters just don't think that much about food. And there's no amount of observing of how people eat that are going to change the way you eat. Everything has to do with that cascade of thoughts that lead you to action. You change your thoughts around food, and then your behavior around food changes in that order. So once you see how they're related and how to do this, you are completely free. And if you want some help, like if you've been practicing this and just like it, you know, it hasn't quite clicked in, or you just want some support, feel free to get some help. Like, I mean, we have this amazing group here, but then you can also go to lydiawente.com/apply. And you can have a free 45-minute session to get the first step with these principles and toward just being free. And you can grab a spot. They tend to go very quickly. And I think we're booked out for like the next, you know, week or so at least. We're going to try to open up some more time. But go, and if you see a spot that, you know, works for you, snag it. And then would be happy to help you with this first step, or just keep rocking on here. So glad you guys are here. Wonderful questions. Keep asking them. We'll do more live feeds. And this is Lydia, the Lifestyle Coach. Mwah.